sound old. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm already have had very important interactions as far as what our organization is interested in doing, which is working with remote viewers who are interested in applying their talents right now to the stock market. We are about applications, but we have set up a methodology which allows you to do ARV, and fortunately we've had two very good talks on ARV, so I don't have to go into as much detail on that as I might otherwise. But you will see in this talk how you'll have the ability to do ARV totally on the internet. You'll be able to get your cue, you'll be able to make your predictions, you'll be able to get your feedback. So that's the primary core of the talk. I'll tell you a little bit about our organization, and then I also will tell you about some current protocols. We are working with some remote viewers now, and I'm actually looking for additional remote viewers to join us in a protocol that's going on right now. This is an online approach. This is our homepage, p-i-a.com. That'll get to this page. I think one of my objectives here is to make you feel very comfortable with this. So I know most of you can't really read what's going on here, so I'm really going to go through it. Virtually all of our pages has a navigation bar up here. Wherever you are, you can always get back to this home page by moving home. The AVM project that I'm going to be talking about, you click that, you get to the AVM project. Another place on the home page, of course, is you can get to it there. Connections is the name of our online magazine. It's a quarterly e-zine. I'll tell you a little bit more about that, but it's connected through the home page right there or through there. And we encourage and are very interested in having all contacts from anybody we're working with, plus anybody who comes to our site. So email contact versus online contact is through there. Now, this is a connection to details. It has our mission statement, which I'm going to show you in a minute. It also has the connections, which will give you more details actually about myself and the other officers of PIA. We are, as was stated, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. Now it's kind of an interesting story getting that through the IRS. We told them we were doing work in terms of predicting the stock market through future predictions. And they approved it. The woman said it was the most unusual approval she's ever had to do, and she had to go to Washington to get approval for us giving their seal of approval. Now, our mission is education about intuition. We want to contribute to the understanding of the physics of the intuitive processes, but our focus right now, frankly, is on applications. Develop applications which use, measure, and analyze intuitive predictions of future events. Precognition. Now, you know what society says about precognition. You can't do this sort of thing. This is society's view. This is what society would put on us. Never, ever think outside the box. And virtually all of us in this conference, I think, are open to thinking outside the box. I think almost all of us, if not all of us, know that precognition is something which is possible. In my view, the issue is applications. In our magazine, and this is cover quote, when you click on the connections through time link, this is what will come up now. The subconscious and a precognition experiment. We always have three sections. physics, intuition, applications. Clever, right? For our thing, for our company. In the physics section, we really try to take on the intellect. There really are plenty of good intellectual reasons for being open to the fact that precognition is real. I mean, quantum mechanics, relativity theory, now we have to talk string theory to try to bring those together. In fact, we've had issues addressing those issues in our EASY. Then we have an intuition section, and here we talk about different aspects of intuition. We talk about various aspects of the work that's been done, a lot of the past work. We talk about it rather intellectually, in the sense about all we can do, though we give suggestions, etc. And then we get down to the application section. The current one, and I'm going to show you some results from this, has to do with our current project and some of the results that we're getting from the people who are participating with us. In the connections through time, as I said, we've taken on issues like the Big Bang and consciousness. This was our very first issue. And in the intuition section, we went back and reviewed, like Pudov has a very nice paper out there where he discussed what was going on while he was at SRI. We reviewed a lot of the past information. I'm not going to review it again here, but you can find that on our website. There's a very well-marked link to go back to all the old issues. So everything is online. We take on the human nervous system. The people out there who actually have ideas about how the human nervous system and quantum mechanics interact. So we get into that thing on the intellectual part of things. The uncertainty principle. This says, oh, Alice, you're the one for me. But Bob, in a quantum world, how can we be sure? It turns out the uncertainty principle is, for example, one of the areas that leaves plenty of room for things like precognition. Now, let's sort of segue here into the AVM project. We have our issue number 2. We devoted the applications section to the AVM project. AVM represents animal, vegetable, or mineral. The photo targets that we use in our ARV technique are either from the animal kingdom, vegetable kingdom, or mineral kingdom. So the primary focus would be one of those 3. That actually serves us quite well. We don't have to worry about duplicates. There's not one target pool. There's a random selection from any of these 3. So there are 3 examples. The home page for the AVM project, which you can get at p-i-a.com/AVM, is this one. Now, I don't expect you to read this. I'm going to tell you about all this in detail. But one of the points I want to make is under this line, PIA line, we always have links. On the home page, we have the link to how you log on. And I want to take you through to try to make as plain as I can. If there are any questions, please ask them, because the idea here is to entice you by showing you how user-friendly and valuable this is to come to the site. And the stock market, of course, is our application here, and I'll show you exactly how that works. So you could bookmark where this is going to take you, but this would be one place where you then can go now to log on to our system. So I'm now going to show you what you would do as a user. Okay, so this is the logon page. Notice we still have the navigation bar. First time you come in, you need to register for an account. Now we have a lot of people, in fact about half the people that come to us, and we encourage this. I mean, we really are sort of a service organization. Come in anonymously. They come in, they define their own username, they define a password. That's all you need to get into the system. When you register, it will ask you for a username and password. It will also ask you for an email address and your first and last name. But we tell them right there, if you want to remain anonymous, just put AAA. If you put in an email address, we'll send you a nice automatic email and tell you how to stay in touch with us. But about half of our people remain anonymous and use the system, hopefully, to their advantage. When you come back, after you register, you come back to this page, you type in your username, you type in your password, and then the very next screen that comes up is a welcome screen. So obviously I did this when I took these screenshots. Now, these are the essence of the ARV approach. This is the essence of what we do. I'm going to take you through what you need to do when you enter predictions, and there are different styles that I think fit most people's kind of approaches, and I'll show you those. And then there are two kinds of feedback. There's photographic feedback, and then there's quantitative feedback. Here's where you're clearly intellectual. Here's where we believe you want to connect up with yourself at prediction time. Photographic feedback is the time to sort of connect with your prediction, try to enhance the signal lines, a lot of words people use. But I would still consider this aspect of the feedback to be part of the process of making the prediction and getting the feedback. This is more intellectual, and I'll show you this, because it's very quantitative, but it also has some very valuable features. It'll let you look at your history. How well did I do on my last 10? Okay, so that information is all available. You know, computers are great. We have all that information on our server, and you get to see how well you're doing. The preferences, as I go through these, you will see the kind of preferences you have. All of those preferences are set on the preference page. When you come in, you get defaults, which you may or may not like. You go to the preference page, you can change it. Now, when you click predictions, this would be a typical default page, let's say. On the top here, just so you understand, it's very easy to navigate. These are all the 4 choices that we had from the welcome page. This one here is enter predictions. This is feedback with target photos. This is feedback quantitative. This is your preferences. So at any point in time, you're always able to click to wherever you want to go. If you're not happy with your preferences, you can change it midway through. I mean, the philosophy here is you're in charge. Notice I haven't said anything about what style you should use, what approach you should use. What we care about is you entering predictions, monitoring them, improving yourselves, participating with us as we invest in the stock market. Now, this approach, some people take a number, write them down. Notice the sequential. So once you came here on this particular day, you would know this is the first number. You could go away if you decided you wanted to do 1, you just do 1, you could do 10, you could take it away, go under a tree, go to your sacred space, do whatever you wanted with it. You come back. If you've decided that this target number, this AVM ID target number, is a V, you click that number. If the next one's an A, you click that button. You click that button, you click that button, that button. You click submit. Your predictions have now been submitted to us. They're on record. And I'm going to show you how this now relates. This has to be submitted a day before the actual stock market start time. So we know for sure, this is all automated. So there's no way you're going to be able to make a prediction which is not in fact precognitive. Now, some people who are using hunches, for example, would use this approach. Some people prefer to only have 1 number. Other people, if they decide they want to do a lot of hunches, might set this up to be 25. Those are the kind of options you have that you can set up on your preference page. I want to blow this up a little bit because that same style is what we call style 1. I think I've explained that. So you understand style 1 in principle. Style, sorry, it's on the preferences. On the preferences will be style 1, 2, Style 3 is a little different. I'll talk about that. And on the preferences would be how many of these you want. Okay. Now here's style 2. Style 2, people like to get into images. People might want to have a few words to motivate them. In this style, we also have the AID number much bigger. The idea being to get down maybe to the subconscious level and make a stronger connection. These words or no words, this graphic or a graphic that you upload to our system. So if you have a GIF or a JPEG file, you can upload it to our system. It will fill this location. Or you could turn both of those off and simply have this portion in style 2. And I know a lot of people use that. They sort of get into the number, repeat it, take what comes back, click, go to the next one. You could have multiple sets of these. And again, some people do this if they're on a slow system. They don't want to have to hit the submit button, wait until it comes back. They might do 5 of these at a time. So the number of sets of these is also variable. So that's style 2. Now style 3 is where the more classical ARV with photographs. Notice you so far have had to pick up the sense of animal, vegetable, mineral. Some people use a pendulum and they have different mode, like we did last night. Tell me what a yes is. Tell me what an A is. Tell me what a V is. Tell me what an M is. They don't really need a photograph, and that's perfectly fine. Check your pendulum skills. Other people try to get the sense of the photograph, and then they'll look at it afterwards and send the sense back to them, whatever approach that they particularly want. Style 3 is what Greg was talking about and what FM was talking about, and I want to show you how we do that in our system. Okay, so this is really that system, except ours is a 3 choice. In style 3, a box comes up which allows you to put some words in which are later going to be shown to the RV judge. So this is an ARV-er. Okay? In fact, you can test this on our system. If you go into our system as ARV-er, put in password ARV-er, you will see this screen. So we have written this in several places as an option, so you can test this. Now, you put these words in, rough, red, roundish, smells vegetable-like, radish. I put AOL here, just as an example. And here I said see facts for sketch. The one thing we have not been able to do is to make it easy for a user to do a sketch online yet. So if the judge is somebody else, if you're doing a other judge rather than self-judging, somehow if you want to do sketches, you're going to have to get that to that other person. Okay, now down here, when you're done, and this is as much text as you want, you hit submit. We have to have put in the authority for a judge now to be associated, if you will, with the ARVer. So we have 2 names in there. If the names are the same, guess what? You're doing self-judging. You're now authorized to judge your own photos. If the names are different when we set up a pair, then we can control the secondary judge. And only the secondary judge would now see names like this. So now the judge comes in, and he sees the same number, same AID number, but now he sees rough, red, roundish, smells, vegetable-like, radish, AOL. So he got exactly what the ARVer wrote. In addition, he now has, I don't know if you can see this back here, but these are links. The judge now would click on this. This says 17465A. Guess what happens when he clicks on that? His animal choice photo comes up. So the judge now has the words. Presumably he's received the facts. He can now look at the animal photo. He then clicks on the vegetable. He then clicks on the mineral photo. He makes his choice, and the judge is the one who then, in this case it's a vegetable, clicks the vegetable radio, it's called the radio button, hits the submit predictions, and the judge now, in judge mode, has made the prediction. That's style 3. That is what here has been sort of called classical associative remote viewing. The other two are for people who might not focus so much on the photos. We work with those people as well. Okay, are there really any questions about this? Because the essence of what you would do as a participant here is exactly what I said, other than I'm going to show you photos now, I'm going to show you feedback. But this is what you would do. You would simply come in, and whatever technique you wanted to use, whoever your trainer was, if you're self-trained, you're going to ultimately end off clicking A, V, or N choice, radio button, by one of these 3 styles.
Are the pictures significantly different from each other, even though they're animal, vegetable, mineral?
Where you I'm going to show you examples. And the answer is yes. I mean, that was one of the ideas behind the AVM approach, figuring that we wanted this to be totally automated. I mean, there's a lot of random things that are going on here. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But it's all automated, so we didn't want to have to worry about 2 photographs being similar. Now, this isn't perfect. In fact, I got a perfect example yesterday with the starfish and the star on the flag. You know, it's not perfect. I'll make no claims to being perfect. In fact, we've gotten comments about photos, and it's not perfect. But the general feeling was that something from the animal kingdom would be different than vegetable, different than mineral. So here's an example, okay? And this now is an example of a typical photo target feedback. When you press that button which says photo target feedback, you will actually be fed these. You can just sit in front of your machine. One of the preferences is how many seconds do I want between these. You can set that between like 1 and up to 20 seconds now. If somebody wanted more, I can do more. That seems sufficient. And they will come one after another. And you can focus on it, do whatever you can to give yourself reinforcement. At this point, we like to recommend you send back, this is the actual target, this is the actualized target, you send it back to yourself. Here's another animal. We have dogs too. We have targets like this, which aren't quite as pure, but we take the point of view that the primary focus of this photograph is animal. That was our intention. We'll wait and see. So one of the things we can do is we can see how many times this photo comes up, and if for some reason it misses a lot, maybe we'll remove it from the set. I mean, you know, that's one of the nice things about computers. We can do a lot of analysis now on these targets. And I'll just show you 1 or 2 more. Here are some examples of vegetable. So this is what you will see on your screen when you hit the photo target feedback button. And these are mineral. And not only do we have, you know, see these, but hey, this is mineral too. Down to earth mineral. Things to target. Okay. Now, up to this point, I think we've talked, though all online, and our intention is to be very helpful to viewers, to allow them to do their normal remote viewing technique, turn it into ARV, all on the internet. But we haven't yet talked quantitative. One of the advantages of this technique is that we, the computer, and programmers who do this, can keep good records for you.
Before you leave the targets, I just had one
Yeah.
quick question.
Sure.
On your, where you have the target ID number, and be that animal, vegetable, or mineral, is that target picture, let's say animal, is that already assigned to that target number, or is it assigned after you go in to look at it?
Okay, now that is a good question. Let me answer that now. There is a random association between AVM and up, down, and near neutral.
Yes.
That is done prior to the actualization.
Okay.
But let's say it turns out to be vegetable. See, we have to know that, or you couldn't invest. Okay, so you have to make the association between AV and M.
Yes.
However, the actual photo associated with whether AV or M is actualized, that's done afterwards. Except in style 3. In style 3, you have to make that association in time before so that the judge has access to it. Now,
Right.
I hope that's not too complicated. Most people don't care about that subtlety and timing, but what I just told you is exactly how you do it.
Well, let me simplify the question. Let's say, as an example, I've got my target ID 15071.
Yes.
And it's got AVM.
Right,
And I'm going to go over and select one of those off a hunch or whatever.
right.
Is there a picture already associated with animal?
What style did you use?
Oh, it depends on the style.
Style 3, which is the classical one where a judge has to look at the 3 choices.
Yes.
We made 3 choices at that point in time, so the judge would look at them.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay? We segregate those numbers from the others. We actually try to minimize AOL's overlay, I guess, as much as possible by having the information not available. Okay? Now, I want to talk about quantitative feedback because we keep really useful, what we think are useful records to the viewers. And we do this in a time history way. I don't know how much of this you can, I know you can't read. Can you see at least this graph? Sort of? Okay. This graph, I'm starting with that, and then I'm going to give you the details. But I want to start with this because we, over the last couple of years, have found that a graphical way of looking at your results is valuable because trends clearly occur. And quite often, a person seems to be very clear what caused that trend. And that's part of what we believe is part of the learning process, a valuable part of the learning process. Now, what we're plotting here, and you're going to put on your intellectual hats here, I'll try not to make it complicated, I've tried to make it as simple as I can, is something called a percentile by chance versus trials. Now, I think we understand the trials, okay? So the number of predictions you've made, and that means when you get out up here, at any point in time, that would be the number of actualized predictions. So these are the predictions that we know the answer to. So in this case, there was 687. At this point in time, you got 233 correct. That led, at this point in time, to a percentile by chance of 64. So you're in the 64th percentile here. Frankly, yesterday you heard something about p-values, which may or may not have understood, but typical p-values for a lot of things would be equivalent to a 95 percentile. A lot of people start getting interested in your results if you're up at the 95 percentile. Say between the 5 and 95 percentile, it could pretty easily be chance. I'm going to show you a little bit more about percentile to make this clear, because it's really critical to what we're doing in the sense that it's a valuable tool, because trends like this really are, I think, a very valuable tool. Did you try a new technique here? Was there more focus here? The downtrends, I've had 3 people independently tell me either they had colds and they really regretted ever viewing, or they were tired. They felt like they had to do it, and so they did it, and they didn't do well. And it showed up on charts like this. Now, what's a percentile? What the heck is this percentile by chance thing? Imagine if 10,000 people each did 10 predictions each, by chance, we actually know what the distribution would be. We know that there'd be 173 on average, if that many trials were done. Okay, 173 people would actually get 0 by chance alone. 867 people would get 1, etc. By chance alone, you'd have 3 people who would get 9. Notice the average is just about what you'd expect, 3. You've got 3 choices out of 10 you'd expect to get right, 3 or 4, so that fits. Most of them are getting right where you would expect. This would be the kind of distribution that you knew by chance. Well, the percentile concept says, hey, let's put this on the basis of 100. Because what if I did 100,000 people? What if I did 1 million people? It's all going to scale based on chance. And if we do this on the basis of 100 people, this 173 becomes 1.73. So you have this curve. And you find this curve is not really the most useful thing. The most useful thing is the sum of all of these up to a certain number of successes. So if you look here, for example, and you say, hey, and look, if I got 8, I know I'm doing well. Well, here if you got 8, you'd essentially be up at the 99.99 percentile. So, bottom line, you obviously want to be up at this end, and the percentile gives you that reading. Anything over 95 or so gets to be interesting, but, well, let me give you one other aspect of the percentile. One other aspect. The example I gave you so far was 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10, you're still doing 40% accuracy as opposed to 33, but your percentile by chance is only 78.7, not really interesting. If you do 40 out of 100, your hit rate is the same, your success rate, you're now up at the 93 percentile. If you can get 400 out of 1,000, you've now demonstrated that there's something going on that is really not by chance. This would be equivalent to a beta of 0.000004. Those are the kind of numbers that we see in remote viewing sessions. And this would be the equivalent way of doing that. Okay, well, I hope that helps. It's a tool. What actually happens when you kind of get keyed in, you should get what we call sticking at the 99+ percentile. Because even if your success rate averages 33.3, if your success rate is 40%, the example I gave, when you get there and you continue with that success rate, you will stick up here. So this is when you get, this is where you have quantitative validation of what you're doing. In fact, you no longer get the value of this. Now you just, hopefully you've learned what you need to know. We're talking about maybe expanding that scale. Okay. As a viewer, what I'm about to tell you, in our approach, you almost don't need to know, but we're not keeping any secrets, so I want to tell you about how we go about doing our investments. Because in our approach, we take care of all of that, and we basically encourage you by paying you as an independent contractor right now. That's our approach, and I'll say a little bit more about that. But the way we connect up the AVM photos with the targets is about what I'm going to go to. So this is called an investment target. This is invisible to you. As a viewer, you only care about the photo feedback that you're going to get. But behind that is an investment target. This investment target has an ID number, and this is the specific Q. Okay? Will the change in closing price of stock XYZ with this start date, with this end date, be up more than this amount be down more than this amount or be in between those two. So that would be the Q. Now, our approach, we have 5 photo target, AVM ID targets, pointing to this one ID. Again, from the perspective of the viewer, this is irrelevant. Each one of their viewing sessions are independent. But we're trying to get enough information out of this to become self-funded and to pay remote viewers as professionals. That's what we're trying to do. Right now, we believe having a 5-to-1 ratio in an automated fashion is about right. And so the computer will randomly take up, down, and neutral and randomly relate that to animal and vegetable minimum. So no one but the computer really knows what that is. We know this one now, but basically nobody knows or cares. But it's done automatically. And again, as a remote viewer, you don't care either. That's one of the reasons you do it randomly, so you just keep your focus on the photos. Now, the other thing which is going on here is we have multiple viewers. So not only do we have, for one investment target, let's first look at this going backwards. Not only do we have, for one investment target, 5 AID numbers. These are the same AID numbers you saw in the previous one. We had in our first protocol, I'm going to tell you, we're just starting our third one, we had 7 viewers simultaneously, roughly, doing the same AID numbers. So this viewer did these 5, made that prediction. So did the other 6. So we essentially get 35 predictions per investment target in that protocol. Okay, now, as an analyst, how do we try to turn this into something valuable? We believe there's great value in ARV. So how do we go about doing that? We look for 2 kinds of things, and we're really new at this. Okay, so we're going to constantly be trying to improve this, and the amount of information we have is rather tremendous. But one thing we look for are what we call clusters, prediction investment target clusters. In protocol 1, we had 2 investment targets that had clusters of 20 out of 35. By that I mean 20 of the predictions were the same. For example, you know intuitively that to get 35 predictions out of 35, okay, being the same would be a very, very improbable event. Well, it turns out to get even 20 out of 35 the same, when you go through the mathematics, is 99.4 percentile. So the idea here being, if there's psychic functioning going on, if the remote viewers are doing something, they're pointing more of them than by chance to the correct target. So when we get up to the 99.4 percentile, we feel comfortable making investments. It turns out this happened with 2 IT numbers. And what was very interesting about this is it wasn't the same viewers. The viewers here that got 4 out of 5, the maximum that they could have pointed to the same place would have been 5 out of 5. Well, we had 2 4s here. The next time there were 2s. Here, this guy had a 2. Here, he got a 4. But in both of these cases, they got up to 20. And in both of these cases, they were correct. I wish I could tell you that that was always the case, but that was not. In protocol 2, we got some that were that high, and they were not always correct. So the rule that you've heard many times has been proven again. No matter how good it looks, sometimes it's wrong. That's the way it is. That's part of the game. But one of the nice things about ARV and the stock market in this way is, you know, you don't have to get them all right. You just have to get enough right to make some money. And again, as I said, we say it's not about the money, and deep in my gut, I believe it's not, and yet, if you say it's not about the money, it is about the money, because that makes the impact. Now, something else I want to discuss here, can you see those curves back there?
There's nothing wrong with liking money, I might add.
Huh?
There's nothing wrong with liking money. A lot of times people think that having money or liking to make money is evil or bad, but that's not at all the case.
I agree with that, but a lot of people, when they're viewing, have to get over that. Protocol 3, focus on feedback. One way of saying this is feedback your actualized photo target. So when you're looking at that pelican, or you're looking at that flower, have the sense that you're feeding it back in some way through your subconscious to yourself at prediction time. So the subconscious is the connection here. Another way of trying to say that same thing is time. People say this so much, it's almost getting to be happy, but time is an illusion. All time happens now. What we see as the prediction now time, when we do the prediction, I mean, that's obviously very real, but that now time is in fact very much connected with the now time when you do your feedback. In fact, they might both be there, but consciousness is experiencing one at a time, so it gets to enjoy each of them maybe, I don't know. But the fact is the subconscious knows about both of these all the time. And so the idea is when you're doing your prediction, you're connected back to feedback time and prediction time and vice versa. And this is kind of a mindset we're encouraging in this protocol. And I mean, we can use these words. We've tried to go a little bit, where we have gone a little bit further in having a deliverable to the people that are working with us on this. We ask them to set up this kind of belief system, but also to specifically write down the AID number and the correct associated AVM target. So when they're getting their photo feedback, they write down kinesthetically AID equals 12567 vegetable or V. But they actually go through this process, and as they're doing that, they're getting a sense of sending that information back to them. If they do an ideogram, this is the time to do the physical motion of the ideogram. You can practice that one. The idea being to maybe send back physical motion to you at prediction time, so that when you let your subconscious take over, guess which one is going to take over? So the attempt here is to enhance the signal line. It's just a concept for enhancing the signal line. People that use hunches, this is their time to say the AID number and the correct answer in their mind, trying to send it back. That's the concept. Okay, my last view graph. We actually very strongly believe that ARV, remote viewing, is a profession. We believe that the people who work with us should be paid as professionals. They should be treated as professionals. And that is what we now do. We have a scale like this. At the end of the 500, let me say one other thing here, because so many of you are interested in associative remote viewing. I've already made one exception, and I'm prepared to make more, where instead of 500, since we know a remote viewing session takes a lot more time than just doing an ideogram. If you wanted to do a full one and do self-judging or have someone else judge, what we're saying is instead of doing 20 predictions a day through a hunch technique, we're encouraging people to do one RV session a day using standard associative remote viewing with judging. So we're prepared to do that with everything else being the same.
Or standard control remote judging that we will then apply to.
Well, yes, if you're using CRV, we also want to get back your rating on your judging. And some equivalent virtually from all of them. If you happen to be using Greg's technique, I want a 0 to 4 back. If you're using someone else's technique, we want a measure back of how well you think your session did against the target. If it's independently judged, we want the judge's evaluation. That obviously is going to help us with the other data we have in terms of making an investment decision. Okay. Now, the approach, notice 33% is chance. Up to 35%, no matter what happens, we will pay $250. And then right now, we've set things up so it increases after that. If you get to a 50% success rate, you get $1,000. My feeling, it's so funny because I'm almost like embarrassed to put this chart all the way up, because what do you think the value is of someone who can do 100%?
Infinite.
It's a lot more valuable than $5,000. And so I recognize that.
Yeah.
But we haven't yet been faced with that dilemma. When we get people that are talking up in here, then we talk, and then it becomes maybe more like a partnership. I don't know. We work this out together. We're all doing this for the first time.
So is this something that you're paying out now in these development stages, or is this something you're paying later after it becomes self-funded?
Now.
Paying now.
And I'm looking for 6 more viewers.
So is
I'd love to
this-
get them from this audience.
So is this like as, when you say that you pay $1,000 for 50% or whatever,
Right.
is that after you do that set of 500?
Yes.
So if you do that in a day or you do it over a month?
No. You have to stay roughly, got some flexibility,
Yeah.
to 20 a day.
Oh, I'm
If
sorry,
you're
20
using
a day,
hunches. Right. So it will take you 5 weeks. And if you're doing ARV, it's essentially designed to be over 5 weeks or so. Period.
Regarding the investment strategies with your current protocol, are you, after all the predictions are in, you're looking at those stats, are you predicating the amount and the amount of your investment on the statistic itself, or is there going to be a flat investment no matter what comes back?
No, definitely. We do lots of nothings. Even though, our sense is that there might be an 80% saying buy, we won't do anything at 80%. So we wait for those high percentile occurrences. But we haven't refined that yet. I have to tell you, there's a whole lot more that can be done. And we plan on doing it, but we just see there's just so much more that needs to be done with this. So we haven't come close to perfecting this. Yeah, Greg.
Excuse me, do you ever, Marty, do you ever plan on changing, for those who want to take an ARV approach, I know that the targets are automatically segregated into animal, vegetable, mineral. Do you ever plan just for the ARVs to change that to 2 dissimilar targets that may not have categories?
Well, I haven't yet had anybody say that these happen to turn out to be too close. Now, I guess I would consider that, but right now, it seems to be working pretty well, just
Right.
because of the animal, vegetable, mineral.
Sure. I would just worry about possibly analytical overlay. If the viewer knows that it could be an animal, vegetable, mineral, might they be wondering as a remote viewing if it is, and that, if so, that might impact the.
Yeah, like if you get the word hard or something, you think, oh, it must be mineral, it's hard, something like that. Or you can think of better examples than that. Just like,
Well, no, there you're talking. Thanks for coming. Well, I don't know. You know what? I would love you guys to jump in and you tell me if you see that as a problem. I think one of the things you try to do is to get into the space where you avoid that. But if you see that as a very serious problem, we could randomize all of our target set, and it wouldn't be that hard to program, certainly. So, that's a possibility. I'm not yet convinced I should do it, but that's a possibility.
I just wanted to say the only problem I had was when you had frescoes.
Yes.
My farm, I always interpreted them as an animal.
want you to know you're not the only person who told me that. So, in fact, I responded to you and said you were. I got a second one. Let me explain this with you because it's very interesting. This is a weakness I'm now aggressively looking at. We had a fresco with people. I have a few statues. Now, what would you put a statue as? Some people got the impression of the person or people involved in the fresco with the statue. Kind of interesting subtleties here. And I'm actually looking at that target to see if that happened more often than check. I mean, you could have just been wrong. But you said you got a strong impression. Well, no, that always came up a few times. For you, that was only come up once or twice. Fresco or things like it. Remember, that's only a few times. It wouldn't affect the overall score. The fresco is only one target. Out of 600 trials, by chance, it might have come up twice. I have about 750 targets. Yeah, so I mean, it would have only affected that particular prediction.
Statement, question.
Okay.
Actually, I think one of the RV teachers, my husband works with one of the RV teachers here, and he was saying that they don't encourage using paintings, particularly, specifically for that reason. Like you could do a museum, a scene of a museum with a painting in it, and if you just do the painting, it becomes very confusing for movers, so I think that's the problem that's been dealt with. What is my question? Look at that.
Have you correlated the effect size with solar wind, geometric?
You know, I'm just starting to look at that. In fact, I'm working with Spotty's Wood on the LST 100, but we don't yet have, over the full duration, enough, none of the viewers has managed to be successful on the 500. I showed you two examples, and there are others where they do very well, but they're not sticking. I showed you one example where they stuck, but generally they're not sticking.
So did that couple make a lot of money there for a while and then they just dropped off and stopped doing it, or how did that work?
I made, that actually, no, those, when they did well, that happened to be during a dry run. I wasn't investing in them.
How many trials have you done and how many times have you succeeded?
Well,
How many, if you were doing 25 days, that's, you could have done, what, four or five investments this year so far?
yeah, we've done more than that.
And what
Our
was the
investments are too close to neutral to matter.
Are you making a profit?
No, this is not a successful project yet. And it's not a successful project because I do not have yet in our project ARVers who are sticking at the 99+ percentile. Plus, maybe I haven't been smart enough to work out a filtering technique so I can tell when they're off and when they're on. I mean, you know, there is that possibility as well.
You only look at the AVM Project, or you look at this time as well?
As what?
This time?
Misty. You know, I meant to mention that, and I also am, I'm glad to stay here as long as you are. Misty, if you go to our website, it's very well marked. The M in Misty stands for minute. Instead of having the stock market actualize the AVM, we have a random number generator built in, which then allows us to give you feedback in minutes. And you can set that as a preference. You can get feedback in 1 minute, you get feedback in 20 minutes. So if you wanted to do a full ARV session, and there you can go in and choose style 3 yourself, because it's designed to be self-judged. So I don't have to do a special program or anything like that. It's designed to be self-judged. You can go into Misty and generate a transcript, choose your own AVM, hit submit, and then based on what interval of time you've chosen, you'll get your feedback in minutes. So that's another part of the training component. We do no investing on those. That's a tool for you.